Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is 5:30 in the morning on a Friday morning. I am recording. 5:30 in the morning on Friday morning is when we draw toys from the toy box. We actually do this every day. We call it a random object from the Random Object Randomogrifier. We draw random objects every morning at 5:30 in the morning. I'm just spritzing these watercolors so they'll be nice and juicy later on. I like them moist. I like my watercolors to be moist and juicy so I can just tap, tap, tap them instead of scrubbing into them. So we do that. And then this morning we're going to draw. What are we going to draw this morning? Oh my goodness, what could it possibly be? It is a 50s era pickup truck. That is a model of it. I think that's a 1/20th scale. It's either a 1/15th or 1/20th scale model. There are a lot of 3D printers, professional, that have people who have bought 3D printers that just make little models like this. And I bought this. This was a set on Amazon. Uh, Trucks, tractors, farm equipment, trucks, tractors. And I thought it was a pretty neat little set. I'm going to block this in real quick, make sure it fits on the page where I want it to fit on the page. I don't think there's going to be any problem because it's just a big square, big rectangle rather. Squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares kind of thing. So we'll just make sure that that fits, and I'm pretty sure it does. So we're going to stop there. But yeah, there's lots of people that have bought 3D printers on the interwebs, and they've started making little models like this. And I've thought many times about doing it because I want to buy a 3D printer so that I can make little models for the randomographer. Can't tell you how many times I've said this would make a nice thing for the randomographer. Why can't I find it in miniature? Trying to put some anchor points on here so that I can see where everything's supposed to go. I want to make sure that I put the stuff where it's supposed to go and not just where I think it should go. Yeah, I've thought many times I needed a 3D printer so that I could just make, like, hammers. And, I look around, just simple stuff. Just simple stuff. And I think, yeah, I could have a 3D printer and I could just make that. Scan some of my pinups. Make little 3D models of my pinups. Draw them, put them in the randomographer. I thought about it all the time. Used to think about it all the time. Don't take that into that place, Mother. That's not That's not at all what I meant. Though, I mean, if I could. Anyway, my mom's giggling in my ear. Got Yeah, I got my mom in my earpiece to run production in the chat. Let me know if somebody says anything in the chat, and she's already laughing about Twilight Zone episodes, 3D printing people. But this model is likely a 50s era pickup. You can tell that because it's got this squared front. And if it were a Ford, it would have more of a pointy front. Pointy, I think pointy is the actual nomenclature for it. So I'm pretty sure that this is a 50s era Chevy pickup. I'm having some problems there with that scale on that windshield, though. I feel like something is off. I'm not sure what it is yet, but I'll get there. We'll figure it out. All these little sketchy lines make me irritated. I don't like having that many sketchy lines. But this is a 50s era pickup truck, 50s era work truck. And in the time frame that this thing would have been in service, this would have been the all day everything utility truck. They would have used this to go to church. They would have used this to haul cows and sheep. They would have used this to haul feed. This would have been the all day, every day way to get around. Yeah, my mother says this is what most kids learn to drive in, and I learned to drive in something similar, not quite a 50s model. I think mine was a 60s or 70s model. That is not working out at all. We're gonna take a lot of those lines away. I think that is just not working out at all for me. It's not often I go back to the drawing board there, if you will. But going back to the drawing board is an interesting thing to talk about on this, because that was one of the things I wanted to talk about today, was the fact that this 3D model is, relatively new technology. In the 50s, when they wanted to design a car, they'd have to they'd have to sculpt it out of clay. They'd have to carve it out of wood or sculpt it out of clay, and they would have to they'd have to test it. If they wanted to test its effectiveness, they'd have to actually build it. They'd have to spend a lot of money trying to bring it to existence, just to test it out, just to see if it would work. And now they can just do it all on the computer, right? They can just print it. They can just design it in the computer and perform all of the wind tests and structure tests before they ever have a practical model. I don't know if Studebaker made trucks or not, Mom. You think this might have been a Studebaker truck? I don't know if Studebaker made trucks or not. She's in the chat asking if Studebaker made trucks. Well, my dad did. I don't know. If only there was a way to find out. Yeah, now they design it in CAD, and they can test the model. Studebaker made trucks in 1930 for those keeping score at home. But the ones they made on the CAD model, or rather the ones they made back in the day, tended to last a lot longer. You see some of these things still in operation with proper maintenance. With proper maintenance, these things lasted years and years and years. Like we were talking about it earlier, just a few minutes ago, my mom made the comment in my ear about how so many people learned how to drive in a pickup just like this. I learned to drive in a pickup not very different from this in the 70s, because with just a little bit of proper maintenance, these things lasted forever. They were over designed. They were over engineered with heavy materials, extra thick walls. They were designed to survive the long haul. They weren't. They knew that when people were buying them, farmers were buying them with the intent of them being the most important, next to their tractor, is the most important purchase on the farm. I think part of the problem is I made that too small. I could have filled that whole space up. I think part of the problem is I made that too small. Dad says it looks more like a 49, and it could very well be a 49. My dad's in the chat saying it looks more like a 49. Modern pickups are more specialized. They're not general utility vehicles like these used to be. And they tend to have a life cycle built in. Like they don't expect them to last more than 10 years. They're not as over engineered as these were. They're more, there's more plastic, there's more opportunities for it to fail. There's more electronics that can wear out, you know, because there were no electronics in this. It was just a combustion engine on wheels. My dad can probably look at this and tell you exactly what it was. You used to be able to look at brands and know exactly what vehicle it was. I know when I was a kid, you could look at a car coming down the street, and I think we talked about this when we drew the car, the little 3D printed car a couple of weeks ago. Well, several weeks ago now. It's probably closer to, probably been closer to 3 months. But when I was a kid, you could look at a car coming down the street and you could go, yeah, that's a Chevrolet, that's a Ford, and you could just tell it by the headlights. So my dad can probably look at this and tell you exactly what it is, because it's his era. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's not like ChatGTP calling you a museum piece or anything. Do do. Do 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 do. That wheel should be like that. But it should be on the same plane as this wheel. But okay. I think we're going to move on from here. But they're not as over engineered. They're not as overbuilt like they were. And so they don't tend to last as long. The plastic parts fail, the engineering part, the electronic parts fail. They tend to have a built-in lifespan. And people have accused them of planned obsolescence. People have accused them of building it to fail so that you have to buy another one. And I can certainly understand that frustration, because sometimes it feels like they build it specifically so that you have to buy a new car every 3 to 5 years. But I also know that Even the newer cars with proper maintenance can last a very long time. There are still quite a few 70s and 80s models pickups out there. They are not without issue, but these things are not without issue too, because part of the problem is you can't find parts for them. You have to manufacture. Sometimes you have to manufacture parts from other parts. Dad said Studebakers were slow geared and worked well in the field. This might very well have been a Studebaker. I don't know. I just saw the squared in, and I completely forgot about Studebaker existing. Hi, Buldana. IDSP Buldana. I completely forgot about Studebaker. I just immediately went to the big three when I was trying to figure out who this was, and Chevy and Ford were the two I thought of immediately. So I completely forgot about Studebaker or anybody else making trucks, making pickups. Completely forgot about it. And again, I've drawn this. I should have drawn this much bigger. I have all this space. My wife tells me all the time, you've got all that space. Use that space. Don't make it small. But in my head, I saw a small truck and drew a small truck. All right, let me draw this real quick. Because the item is gray, there's not much to do beyond the grayscale. Your exams are going on tomorrow, and tomorrow is last exam. All right. It is. I drew it really small. I drew it almost exactly the size that it was there. I could have made it a whole lot bigger. My mom's in my ear saying, "That's really tiny." I could have drawn it the exact same. I pretty much drew it the exact same size it is on the paper. For no reason. I had plenty of room. I had plenty of room. Look how quick that went. But that's way too dark. I can't believe I did that. And then I do need this shadow down here to be much darker. Like that. Got to add some form to these things. Gotta make these things shape up. Bed shape up. Cause I need a band. I need a band. All right. But the thing is about the thing about these things is I can't tell you how many times I watched my dad bend something into place to fix something. You know, if something broke, you like a fan blade or something, you could take a piece of tin and hammer it into shape and screw it onto the box and fix the fan blade. You can't do that today at all. It's all form-fitting plastic. And there's something to be said about it being, able just to hammer it in place like you could back then, because it's that's one of the reasons why it was able to last as long as it did, was because it was so easy to repair. Yeah, my mom's in my ear telling me you used to be able to go what we call a shade tree mechanic for repairs. And I tell this all the time with my day job is working with repairs on cars. And me and my buddies Kenny and Daryl used to spend a lot of time trying to make Kenny's Impalas burn fuel faster under a shade tree. We used to just be able to sit up underneath the shade tree, and all three of us could fit in the engine compartment, lifting, breaking stuff out, hammering stuff into place. Now, if you open the hood, it's all electronics and plastic. You can't even touch the engine uh, without a couple of hours of digging the equipment out of the way, digging the covers and guards out of the way. Can't talk, Harding. Do do do. How we doing on time? Oh, it's already 5:53. But yeah, you used to be able just to take scrap metal and hammer it into shape and fix things that were wrong. I've seen belts replaced with garden hose. I've seen air filter gaskets replaced with uh, paper sacks, trash bags. You couldn't possibly get away with all that stuff now because the computer is reading your emissions, and if it's not right, the computer will shut your car down. But all that complaining, there is a shining light at the end of that tunnel, because the modern trucks are more fuel efficient. The modern trucks are faster, safer, they're more fuel efficient, they're more comfortable, so they're more ergonomically designed, if you will, so that when you sit down, you don't hurt you don't hurt yourself trying to lean over. Bye, Budana. You don't hurt yourself trying to lean over to change the radio station, because it's all designed just to work right next to where you are. So there are benefits to the modern vehicle. They did make a point to make the modern vehicle more comfortable, more fuel efficient, faster, safer. But if it breaks, it's broken. Throw it away. All right. Let's see here. Overhead. Now, this is, look how small it is. I have to come up to here to make it, put it in the same perspective size-wise. I should have drawn that a whole lot bigger. Anyway, that's that. Let's look at it from my perspective. Turn this microphone off. It's not bad. It's just tiny. I just drew it tiny. All right, let's see here. Stop the recording. Safely eject. Pull that out. Camera. So from my perspective, I mean seriously, it's life size. I drew it. I drew it life size. From my perspective, how tiny can you make it? If I'd had a finer point pen, it probably would have been smaller than that. So anyway, that's what I did this morning. The little girl has already pulled us an egg for tomorrow. Let's see what it might be. It is, oh, it's part of the Women's of Industry set. It is a letter carrier. It is part of the Women of Industry set. That is great for a Saturday because there's a lot of detail on that, which means I won't be late for work. But that's what we're doing tomorrow, August 2nd, Saturday, August 2nd. If you are watching this Saturday, August 2nd, and it is before 5:30 in the morning, then you're watching the trailer, and this is what we're about to start doing. So stick around, we'll get right on it. But for the rest of us, I'm also going to go to the zoo tomorrow. I'm getting up after I get done. After I get done with the show tomorrow, I'm going to go have breakfast and go to the zoo. Hopefully my family joins me. But for the rest of us, that's the show today. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. I look forward to this every day when I get to come down here. It gives me accountability to my art practice, and it lets me art with my art buddies. And I really enjoy this every day. And thank you for joining me. Be sure and tune in tomorrow. Same Artistic Biker time, same Artistic Biker channel, and we dance. We dance till somebody says they see me dancing, because that means the lag has caught up to the stream. And we don't want the lag to not be caught up to the stream when we cut it off.